she struck out Babe Ruth.
Okay.
Called third strike after 2 whiffs.
Okay.
And Lou Gehrig.
Wow.
Yes. 3 swinging strikes back to back.
Ooh.
Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And this is Raising the Game, a women's sports podcast covering primetime performers, business behind the athletes in the leagues, and what the growth of women's sports means for the next generation of women's athletes.
This is episode 32?
32.
32. It's going to be a little bit different than normal.
Yep.
We will be traveling during our normal recording session.
Yes.
So we are going to do a little bit of history on women's professional baseball with the new WPBL that's out there.
Yeah, so WPBL play kicked off this past weekend.
Yep.
They played their games. We've talked about it a little bit on this past week's episode 31. So you can go check that out. But we did want to dive in and kind of share like a little bit more about the history, like Alex said, but also the origin story of the league that we see today.
Yeah.
Get you a little bit excited about it. Hopefully, maybe you can catch some games on streaming.
Yes,
YouTube,
ESPN Select, YouTube.
ESPN Select. But really excited. I keep looking to buy a hat from one of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you go there, every single team's hats are all sold out.
Nice.
Which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. I love to see it. So we're going to dig into that, and then we'll wrap up today's episode since we don't have a ton of like new content relative to the active leagues, NWSL and WNBA. We're going to do a little like, how do we think the playoff picture is going to shake out for both of those leagues, and then we'll wrap with a what to watch for the week. So,
all right. As always, remember to follow us, Instagram, RTG_pod, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. YouTube Music has podcasts, so we're on there. Anywhere you get them, make sure to follow us.
Yep. Share with your friends, like, subscribe, whatever buttons.
Do all the buttons, every button.
I know normal episode we do a favorite thing. I think we both agreed our favorite thing is we are taking this trip, which is why we're recording early, and we will get to see a live NWSL game. We have yet
never
to see
been to one. Yeah.
In person
which is wild for all of the U.S. women's national team games we've been to.
I know. And Aurora games too. We love women's soccer, but there's no pro team here in Minnesota where we live. So we will go see the Denver Summit play the Utah Royals.
Be a good game.
Out in Colorado. So looking forward to that. All right.
Let's do it. Should we dig right in?
Little history lesson?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to lead us through this conversation on the history side, and then we'll get into like the current league, like we said. I think what's really interesting to me as we were researching this is women's professional baseball, or attempts at establishing a league or a place to play, has existed for a long time.
Yeah.
So for over 70 years right now, no woman in America has been able to like call herself a professional baseball player. So that's going back to the 50s, right? But that obviously just changed last weekend. But this history goes back way before that. So we're actually going to start our story in 1866.
Wow.
I don't even know how many years ago that was. 140, right? Something like that.
60?
60, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 160.
Yeah, right. Something like that. And we're going to start actually very similar to the origins of American football. Women's pro baseball, or women playing baseball, started in college. So at Vassar College, they fielded the first organized women's sports teams, or I should say baseball teams. They're called the Resolutes was their name. So like very in line with the, I don't know, right? The Resolute desk is what
that's what I was thinking of.
And there's some historical like diary entries or letters that students wrote back to their parents saying like, oh my gosh, I love this. Right. And we've talked on this podcast a lot about the sense of inclusion and community that people can get from participating in sport, men and women, right? And so it's exciting to see that these opportunities were starting as far back as 160 years ago. Other women's colleges soon followed. So Smith, Wellesley, like things like that, right?
Yeah.
They, throughout the 1970s, would field teams and they would play each other. 1870s, yes, thank you. Sorry. I mean, it's late.
Yes, yeah.
But as you will learn is a theme throughout this history lesson, parental and press backlash shut these teams down. So there was a general sentiment that it was not proper for women to participate in a man's sport.
Okay.
Yes. So we will, like I said, it'll be a theme. So we'll have chances to comment on it a little bit as we go, unless you really want to comment right now. We're going to move ahead to mid 1870s, so 1875. And this is going to be important because this is our connection to Springfield, Illinois. Springfield, Illinois is important because that's actually where all of the WPBL games are being played.
Oh, okay.
So instead of having those teams travel, there's 4 teams in this new league. They play all of their games at Robin Roberts Stadium in Springfield, Illinois. And they chose that, I think, as a nod to this little piece of history. So the, quote, Blondes and Brunettes, the first known paid women's baseball game, was played in Springfield, Illinois in 1875. And if you think about it, like 150 years later, basically, now we're back to that.
Yep.
I would also like to call out that someone decided that we were going to do the team names
Blondes
based off
and Brunettes.
Yes. So again, continuing our theme here. Now, as we move into the 1880s and then all the way into the 1930s, so for about 50 years, right, we had what is known as the barnstorming era. So the Dolly Vardens from 1883 is one of the first Black women's teams to play. You also had the Bloomer Girls squads tour the country. So kind of think like almost like the Savannah Bananas of now, right? Or whatever. Where starting in the 1890s to the early 1930s, and they'd actually play mixed gender exhibitions against men. And future Hall of Famers Roger Hornsby and Smokey Joe Wood actually got their start with the Bloomer Girls.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Were they playing women versus men or intermixed? On both.
I think it was co-ed. Okay. Yeah, I think it said mixed gender exhibition. So I think it was like they're all on teams together. Another notable name to know from this era, Lizzie Arlington becomes the first woman to sign a minor league contract in 1898. So that's again, wild. Women have been playing baseball
they've been
for
doing
a
for
long
a while.
time. And then Maud Nelson stars as a player, then becomes a manager and a team owner.
Maud sounds like a manager.
Maud does sound like
she's got to be the manager.
So we have some notables, right, from that kind of 50-year period, late 1800s into the early 1900s. And then right around the turn of the century, there's some other points of emphasis that we wanted to bring forward as we think back across this timeline. So Amanda Clement becomes the first paid female umpire in Major League Baseball in 1904, Alta Weiss, pitching draw, who funded medical school with her baseball earnings. So she actually was able to earn enough money pitching
to pay for her school.
Okay,
that's cool.
Right? And so you're seeing like the first like kind of examples of like that independence. I'm going to go generate my own income because I can do it through this sport, right? As opposed to around that time, it was very much not common for women to work outside of the house unless you were like working for a more wealthy family, right? That kind of thing. Helene Britton, also around this time, becomes the first woman to own a major league team. So
wow.
We're starting, she owned the Cardinals starting in 1911.
Okay.
And so what we're starting to see is like women are starting to make inroads into baseball, into different venues, right? Umpiring, actually playing, and then ownership. And we saw Maud, obviously, with the coaching piece as well. So moving ahead to right at the 1930s time point, right? Kind of into our next era, I wanted to call out a specific story. So we're going to talk a little bit for the next few minutes about Jackie Mitchell. So Jackie Mitchell signed with the Chattanooga Lookouts, so Chattanooga, Tennessee, in March 1931 at the age of 17. She was the second woman ever to sign to a men's minor league contract after Lizzie Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually was the neighbor, or I should say her neighbor and future Hall of Famer Dizzy Vance had taught her to pitch as a kid.
Okay.
So she was kind of mentored by this Major League Baseball player, right?
I love these names. These are all great names. We got to go back to this.
We should go back. Yeah. We could have changed some things
we could have
with our kids. So fast forward, she signs this contract April 2nd, 1931. There's an exhibition game against the barnstorming Yankees. And she struck out Babe Ruth.
Okay.
Called third strike after 2 whiffs.
Okay.
And Lou Gehrig.
Wow.
Yes. 3 swinging strikes back to back. Was her struck those 2 out back to back.
Yeah.
Public sentiment reacted. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
And it split fast. And so I think it's interesting, right? We still see this today. We just see it happen a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Through the digital age. But clearly like things come up, right? And immediately everybody feels they have to choose a side.
Yep.
So the sides in this case were one represented as an example by the New York Times. They ran, quote, "Girl Pitcher Fans Ruth and Gehrig" is like the article title.
Yep.
And editorialized, quote, "The prospect grows gloomier for misogynists."
Okay.
Right? Well, the Chattanooga News praised her control and, quote, "odd sidearm delivery," but much coverage treated it as a stunt and doubt about whether Ruth or Gehrig played straight.
Oh, okay.
So, again, we're here doubting a woman's ability to play because how on earth could a woman possibly strike out Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig or whomever, right? And I mean, I think, again, we talked about how this was going to be a theme of there's just we have long struggled, I think, to believe that women can be as capable or effective as men in perceived male-dominated spaces. So Babe Ruth actually told the New York Times that, quote, "women will never make good in baseball because, quote, they are too delicate. It would kill them to play ball every day." End quote.
Have you ever seen a picture of Babe Ruth? I think if he can play baseball day after day, I think a woman could play baseball day after day.
Yes. This becomes a tired defense that I think us women use too, but I just want to, who gives birth to children?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't think he could give birth to a child.
Pretty sure it's harder than playing baseball.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, Ruth makes the statement within days. Commissioner Kenesaw Mountain Landis,
what a name,
voided her contract.
Ooh.
Citing that the game was, quote, "too strenuous for women," an individual ruling that foreshadowed the MLB's formal 1952 ban on women's contracts, which was not lifted until 1992.
So he was basically saying, "I'm protecting you from this."
Yes.
That's not what it is.
It's not what it is.
No.
That's how they frame it, right? And we see this consistently. This, again, we've talked about it here many times, the kind of infantilization of women. They need protecting, they're weaker, right? When in reality, if this played out the way that straight up, right, she was just good and capable and effective. So the personal toll here was Jackie Mitchell had no one come to her, not even her parents came to her defense to say, hey, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like she just wants to play and she's good. Yeah. Right. So she barnstormed for years afterwards. Barnstorming is, I think they just kind of pull teams together and play. Right. But she grew to resent being treated like a sideshow, right? Yeah. Like, oh, here's this woman who's really good. Almost like saying you're like a freak of nature to like be as good
type thing.
And she resented that, which she should. And I think this even ties into our Pioneers episode where we saw athletes like Althea Gibson be used as this like token symbol.
Yep.
When it's like, I'm just good at what I do. Yeah. Right. And I'm not some representation of something you did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think because of that resentment, Jackie Mitchell sort of ended her career probably prematurely, right? She declined to join a kind of semi-formed pro league that developed around the 1940s for women. And so it's unfortunate, right? But when you face that kind of backlash and the lack of support that she did, it's understandable.
Yeah.
So now we are going to talk about that league there. So it's called the PBL.
It's a mouthful. Yeah.
And that was founded in 1943, like I said, founded by Philip Wrigley amid World War II manpower shortages. So as was common in many sectors in our country in World War II, all the men went over to fight in the war, and who was going to do all the things that the men were doing? Well, the women did. Yeah. And they were damn good at it in a lot of cases, including playing baseball. So the, quote, charm school contradiction came out through this. So they were like, we need people to play baseball because we've got to make money and like that's entertainment and whatever. We're going to have the women do it. But we're going to make them wear skirts.
Jesus.
And we're also going to have them attend etiquette classes because that's essential for how you perform on a sports field. Yeah, Alex is losing his mind
for all of those super polite and well-meaning men who were playing before.
Because they weren't cussing or having it. I know, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. But it was largely quite successful. So peak attendance in 1948, so 5 years after it was founded, was over 900,000 fans.
Okay.
Across multiple games, obviously, but that's a lot of almost 1 million people.
Yeah, that's great.
Our country's population was not as big as it is today then. No. So pretty significant. And there was actually a parallel league running at the same time in Chicago called the National Girls Baseball League. Notice how they use girls,
not women.
And not women. And we actually see that continue today where we kind of use girls to describe women, but men to describe boys, right? So very kind of a fascinating time period. There's a lot more history, obviously, there with World War II era and how the role women played throughout that. But interesting that it even touches on sport, right? Yeah. So moving ahead, or actually I should say in parallel to this, as you can imagine, Black women were not allowed to play in the AAG PBL. So they actually started their own league. So the Negro Leagues started ran throughout the 1950s, and a couple of women, names like Toni Stone, Mamie Peanut Johnson, and Connie Morgan, became the first women to play pro ball full time in these Negro Leagues. So now we come up to a time period where there's kind of these leagues have formed, women are playing, but then there's sort of this gap. So the AAGPBL,
you got it.
So many letters, folds in 1954.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen the movie A League of Their Own, that is sort of a story around this time period when it folded, and then these women wanting to play baseball and how do we kind of reinvigorate that. So it obviously took 40 years. That movie came out in 1992 for that story to be reintroduced to the public, where there's this gap where there's no known record or kind of anything formalized where women are playing baseball. Now, in that time, there are some pockets of stories, right? And so one of the ones that we want to touch on just briefly before we move into talking about the WPBL is Maria Pepe and Little League. So this is not professional, and that's why we exclude it from that historical kind of gap. But in 1972, Maria Pepe tried out for like a local Little League team, right? And she made the roster as a starting pitcher with her hair cut short. Not everybody realized that she was a girl at first. She pitched in 3 games before word reached Little League's national office, which told the Hoboken League that she was in it would lose its charter if she kept playing. So she had to come home, or excuse me, I should say not she. The coach had to come to her house and ask for her uniform back. And Maria Pepe described that as one of the most difficult parts, because you think about what a uniform represents. It represents belonging. It represents I'm part of something bigger than myself. It represents I made it. I achieved this. Right. And her coach, who actually was quite supportive of her playing, right? And she was good. And he probably wanted to win. Right. Had to come take that away from her. But then what ended up happening out of this was different from Jackie Mitchell, where her parents didn't really support her in that challenge that she faced. They actually filed a lawsuit. So her removal drew local media attention, which then reached the National Organization for Women, who then contacted her family, and they were like, we'll represent her, right? And so that actually led to a case that opened the Little League to girls in 1974.
Very nice.
So
I'm assuming that at that point she was too old to play. Or
potentially. I didn't actually get, that's a good point. I didn't get history on how that affected her. But you also wonder, like, that was probably traumatizing. Right? Unfortunately. And I think she was kind of left with this memory of like coach coming and taking her stuff away. Took 2 years to settle that lawsuit. Like she probably may have aged out at that point, right?
I think it's really interesting, the idea that women are not good enough or not strong enough to play baseball day after day, but as soon as you have someone, even in a little league, playing very well, it's like, well, we can't let this happen.
It's a threat.
It's a threat. So it's like, which one is it? They're not good enough, or they're too good that they're going to embarrass the men. Like, it's like they're trying to hold so many different opinions of these women at one time.
I think there's totally that. And then I think we see parallels to some of the challenges that we're seeing right now in the women's sports community, or just the sports community writ large, which is like, if you don't look a certain way to an outsider, right, to some arbitrary standard that frankly have been set by men for so long, right, you could get reported and then investigated, and then whether it's banned like she was in her case, or just mocked and ridiculed, right? Which I'm sure she faced some of that as well. So it's interesting as I was researching this. It's like fascinating how well we have progressed so far in terms of what is available for women from an opportunity perspective, and even long way to go, but from like a funding and access and viewership and things like that, there's still some of these like root problems that persist, which that's a whole other conversation that we're not going to get into on this podcast. Maybe one day. It's inherent in all of this, always, but I think it's really interesting to see that this is kind of an age-old right fight that has had to go on. And I think something that's really important related to some content that we've had recently around Title IX is like Title IX is the piece of legislation which came out right at this time that really did impact that growth and that change that I just described, right? I fear if that had never happened, this would still be happening.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Right? So, so as we kind of move forward into this like more modern era, there's a couple names of note that are just kind of fun to know, to know exist. So Isla Borders, 1997 to 98, she becomes the first woman to start and win a men's professional game.
Yep.
Justine Segal, keep this name in mind, first woman to coach an MLB organization in 2015, and she founds Baseball for All in 2010. So a little bit before she's coaching that MLB organization, but that is now the largest girls baseball organization in the country. Mm-hmm. And then the growth of women's college club baseball, USA Baseball's women's national team, and the Women's Baseball World Cup, that is really the pipeline that's been available to make this new league viable again. So it's, so many different, I think there's probably like a whole list of almost like mini pioneers within just the single sport, right? That opened the door to what we could experience today. And it's really exciting to see a formal league back on the table. And we want to shift now to just talk a little bit about that league and how it got formed, how it's funded, how it's structured, and how you can get engaged. So let's talk about the Women's Professional Baseball League. This was co-founded by Justine Segal, I told you not to forget her name, and Keith Stein. And this was announced in October of 2024, so about 2 years ago now. Segal was named the league's first commissioner, this past March in 2026. And as I mentioned before, there are 4 teams that represent 4 different markets in the United States, but obviously I said they all play in Springfield for right now. So you have the Boston Hunters, the New York Heights, the Los Angeles Queens, and the San Francisco Firebells. I'm going to explain the names in just a second. And they chose the site, I think, for just consistency, right? Yeah. And there's the historical nod too, but there's media presence nearby.
Middle of the country.
Country. Yeah. It's accessible enough. And they sold out their first weekend. So clearly working for them so far. So let's talk about these teams a little bit because it's kind of fun. So each of them are named after kind of a pioneering woman, not necessarily in baseball or sport, but kind of in their towns or cities. So the Boston Hunters are named after Harriet K. Hunt. She was the first woman to apply to Harvard Medical School. She's a pioneering physician and activist. And their logo is like an osprey, so like a bird of prey with a bat. And their identity is kind of like grit and determination, right? So that is the Boston Hunters. New York Heights are named after Dorothy Irene Height. She was a civil rights and women's rights leader. Their logo is my favorite. You will see a hat of theirs on this podcast, but it's like a skyline, but also like a fastball. Like they worked that in. It's really cool.
It's cool.
And then their identity is around ambition and relentless standards. So high standards, right? Heights, we love it. The Los Angeles Queens are named after Lizzie Murphy. She's known as the Queen of the Diamond. And she was the first woman to play against major league players. They have a big Q and like some diamonds in it for their logo. And their identity is bold and unapologetic. Yeah, right? And then the San Francisco Firebells are named after Lily Hitchcock Coit. She's also known as Firebell Lil. And she was a champion of the city's volunteer firefighters, which there's a whole ton of history around fires in San Francisco. firefighting, and they have kind of a bell and phoenix logo. So thinking like rise from the ashes type of thing. Also cool. All of these logos were designed by a woman-led design agency.
Great.
We mentioned they play at Robin Roberts Stadium in Springfield, Illinois. That callback to the Blondes and Brunettes game of 1875. And the way the season gets structured is it's 30 games. But as we love to do with baseball, it's like how many games can we play in 1 week, right? But they play from August 1st. So like we said, started this kind of past, about 10 days ago by the time you're listening to this. And it runs through the first week of September for regular season. And each team will play 15 games. Right. So best of 3, then they go into a best of 3 playoff round starting September 9th, which will lead to a championship. Couple differences from the MLB. So women's baseball, they play 7 innings. And they are allowed to use aluminum bats. Which is the same as softball. But now, instead of the underhand pitch with the bigger ball, you are doing overhand pitching with the regulation size baseball. From a talent perspective, we mentioned that like the collegiate club system and then obviously the national teams really help to kind of create that pipeline funnel for talent. But this, for tryouts, they had over 600 players from 10 different countries come out. And they did a draft this last fall. And I think like they're really leading with some of these more well-known players in their socials and their advertising and whatnot. So names like Kelsey Whitmore, Ayami Sato, and Monet Davis are going to be folks that you'll like see. They're very much like kind of face of the league. Danae Benitez as well, I think, are going to be the people that you see a lot in their ads and marketing. Sorry, I have an itch on my eye. It's bugging me. And then lastly, just to round out this section, I'm going to talk a little bit about funding because this is always very important. So the league has a strategic partnership with Fremantle. So it's a production, distribution, sponsorship, broadcast deal support. So like they're kind of on, again, like the operational side of the house. And then they have some capital investment. But what's really interesting is there's no formal connection to Major League Baseball. And actually, fans have been really quick to call out that the Major League Baseball has, as of now, done nothing to help promote this. Not saying that they have to, but like there is opportunity for these established men's leagues, right, to lean into these women's leagues or even just like showing support, right? It's kind of interesting that like the San Francisco Giants, the New York Mets or Yankees, like LA Dodgers, like that you wouldn't be like, cool, look at this. This is awesome, right? But again, it's not, there's no formal connection, so it kind of makes sense, right? They have no obligation to do it. But like I said, fans have been quick to call it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So we shall see how it goes, right? This is their first season, 4 teams. Obviously, they got to kind of test it out. We have a little bit of a proof point in like a PWHL, right? On like how it could look. But there's no big safety net for them right now.
I think what's really interesting is we just saw this summer, I think, with the softball being shown on, I think it was ESPN or wherever it was. Right. We're seeing a little bit more interest. I was coming into this, I was thinking like, we don't see as much of the interest in like the women's softball, obviously because not played on national TV or anything, but there's definitely like a difference in like volleyball's really big, right? So it makes sense like that, like LOVB, Major League Volleyball is happening.
Good call.
I'm wondering if we start to see more of the women's softball World Series and things like that being played on national TV, that we do start to see more of that interest come into it and actually kind of start to help this league. get propped up a little bit more.
Well, and it's interesting too, because you make that comment about softball for at the collegiate level, that's a varsity sport.
Yep.
Baseball, women's baseball is a club sport.
Yeah.
At the collegiate level. Right. So like you're not getting that same funnel. And so I think like for fans, even there's probably almost this assumption, right, that like softball is what women do.
Yep.
Baseball is what men do.
Versus like basketball.
It's just
basketball,
the same. Yeah. Right. Same with volleyball. Yep. Right. So I think that's a good point on like how it actually is a really interesting problem to think about for their league. And how do you partner, right? Like how do you tap into, I know, AUSL they're not pausing AUSL. They're pausing the basketball and the volleyball, but like that Athletes Unlimited group, they just ended their season. Yeah. Right. They've been going for a while. Like, are there ways, but then you also don't want to like detract fans. I don't know. It's just something interesting to think about.
I thought it was really interesting when you said 1866 and I was like, that is insane that they have been playing for this long. And then I was like, well, we've been playing baseball.
Baseball has been around
forever. Right. And so it makes quite a bit more sense,
America's
but it was just
pastime, right?
Just so long ago. That's so wild to me that it has been that long.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it. It was really fun, like diving into the history and kind of like learning how far back it goes. Yep. B, how frequently women have tried to find ways into the sport. Yep. Right. And where they've been successful in their play. Yeah. Right.
I do think it is one of those sports too, where women could much more easily play against men realistically versus some of the other sports. Like I know, like I think Serena said, like tennis, men and women are completely different. It's a different game, whatever. But I feel like baseball is one of those ones where a pitcher could be really successful or first base. Like you could be really successful in some of those different positions.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will have a couple games coming up this week for you to check out in our What to Watch. But highly encourage you go check this out. That you can find them on social media. Anything WPBL is going to direct you towards that. But you can find a team you like. Like I said, I guarantee you I will have at least one of the team's hats by the time the season is kind of getting to the playoff point. If they can get them back in stock quick enough. But excited to watch. I definitely enjoy some baseball here and there, and I think it's probably even more, for me at least, more fun to go try to watch if it's women playing, I think. So we'll keep an eye on that and keep y'all posted on how you can engage.
All right.
I'm going to pivot.
Yeah, let's pivot here we're going to talk NWSL and we're going to do some kind of discussion around who we think the last two in are.
Yes. To the playoffs.
Yes, to the playoffs. So we have about, 30 total games, the whole league remaining. So about 12 to 14 per team.
Yep.
And we are looking at an end of the regular season around, I think it's October 4th.
Yes.
So we are currently sitting at, in order, Gotham, Washington, Utah, San Diego, Kansas City, and Portland are our top 6. We're looking at who would be our next 2 that we think would be in. Currently, number 7 is North Carolina, and number 8 is LA.
Yeah, and I think we're going to talk through a couple of these teams. We're going to leave it for right at the end to say, like, do we think anybody is going to fall out of that top 6, or anybody that we're not talking about in the middle group going to come on strong? And so we'll get into that. As you look at the standings right now, I would say Gotham, Washington, and Utah and San Diego kind of look like it'd be unusual for them to like not make the playoffs.
Yep.
Kansas City and Portland are, North Carolina's 1 point behind, Portland 2 behind KC. So like that's a 1 game swing, right? Yep. Depending on how things go. But I think generally speaking, we feel like those top 6 are likely to still make the playoffs. It's just kind of where they finish.
Yep.
So, like Alex said, we're going to talk about 7 through 10. And I'll kick us off talking about North Carolina, who's currently in 7th place in the standing. So they have 27 points, as I mentioned. They played 17 games. They're 8-6-3. They currently are averaging about 1.7 goals per game, 1.35 goals against. So they're positive in a goal differential perspective. But they do have a tough slate in the back half. They play games against all top 6 teams, at least one. They play San Diego twice. They also have 6 home games and 8 away games. And if we look at their record, they are more successful thus far at home.
Okay.
They're 4-4 and they've played more games at home, I should say. Yeah. They have the same number of wins, I should say, at home versus away.
Okay.
And so you just never know how that's going to go like later into the season. You also start to get where I don't know, the weather, it can start to get cold. Things like that. Now, what they do have going for them is they have Ashley Sanchez on their team, who is part of this Golden Boot race that's going on right now that somehow Barbara Banda is still leading, even though she's been gone on
for a while.
Duty for a few weeks. Actually, not somehow. She's incredible.
Yeah.
And so when you have somebody who is one of those just consistent threats, she's basically good for a goal every other game, right?
Yep.
I think for me, the questions that I would have are around where's your other scoring coming from, right? And then how consistently disciplined is your defense? And I think just even looking at their goal spread, there's not a lot of space
not a lot
there.
Of movement there.
And so if anything kind of breaks down, you could end up on the wrong side of a result. Yeah. So to me, I think North Carolina could hang around, but we're going to talk about these 3 other teams. And I just feel there's some threats knocking on the door. For sure.
So Angel City, they are sitting at number 8 right now. They have played 16 games. They have a 1.5 goals per game, 1.06 goals against. So just maybe a
better spread than
better
North Carolina.
Spread, but lower on both. Kind of interesting there. 6 of their last 13 games are against the top 7 teams.
Oof.
So not an easy schedule here. But if they can win those, they're going to do a lot of leapfrogging. It's true. Help them out a lot, right?
It's true.
What I put here is that their upside is that their defense has started to look a little bit better. They've strung
their coaching change.
Their coaching change. They have what's his name? Smirud. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad. But they've strung together a few clean sheets, so that's looking a little bit better. But also consistency. Started 3-0 and then kind of collapsed at the beginning of the season. Then they beat San Diego, Chicago, and dropped 1 to Louisville. So they just that with the coaching is just they don't really have the consistency there.
I think I saw too last week. One of their more lethal, offensive threats, Fendis Jonsdottir, went down with an injury, and I never saw the follow up from that of was it more serious?
I think she's okay.
Okay.
I think she's still a threat. So
because that would be a real loss for them. I think a lot of their goals against, or goals per game, I should say, actually came from early in the season. She was scoring like a maniac.
Yeah, I think a lot of their goals have been coming from the flanks too. So they've been working that.
Yeah. Okay. Will be interesting. They do seem to be streaky.
Yeah, they can be streaky. Exactly. Consistently streaky or consistently loosey.
Right. All right. Moving on to the number 9 team, I'm going to take us through Seattle Reign. If you had asked me 3 weeks ago, even 2 weeks ago, if I thought I would be talking about the Seattle Reign as a contender for the playoffs, I would have probably laughed at you. Because we talked about them before, they've struggled to score. They've struggled to win, frankly. But here they are. right? And I think one of the things Alex pointed out a few episodes ago is like the parity in the league is so high where the competition every single night, it's like you don't really know who's gonna win. There's maybe 2 gimme wins or they should be, right? But that's why we play the game, as we like to say here. So like I said, Seattle has struggled to score goals. They're right now sitting on 16 points. So 23 points. Sorry, 16 games played. So 23 points. So they're tied, right? They're in this like neck and neck race with LA and Orlando, who Alex is going to talk about. But all 3 of those teams are 4 points behind, North Carolina. So they have a -1 goal differential, which is not great. But they have a favorable schedule to close out. So they're one of the only teams that we looked at that actually has favorability in terms of a couple factors. So from my perspective, they have 14 games to go. Only 3 of those games are against top 5 teams.
All right.
So they've already played like the
Most
Spirit
of them,
twice. They've played Gotham twice, right? So they've gotten some of that out of the way. I think they've played Utah twice, potentially too. No, they've played Utah once. They have to play them again.
A couple of games against Chicago. You're going to be looking pretty.
That's right. They have a couple games against Chicago. They also have an upside in home versus away, and they're back at Lumen Field. So they, for the first half of the season, they couldn't play at their home field, Lumen Field in Seattle, because Lumen was being used for the Men's World Cup.
Oh, that's right.
And so they'd put the fresh grass down, right? And they were like, you can't be here. So they were playing at, I think, University of Washington nearby or something. So they have not really been home. But now home is home for real. And they have 8 games versus 6 on the road of those remaining 14 games. And then the third thing to me that's really interesting is I just mentioned that they're sitting tied right now with Angel City, and they're 4 points behind North Carolina. Well, pretty quickly in this start of their 14-game run, they will play Angel City twice in that period, and they will play North Carolina. So they have a little bit of like own destiny.
Yeah, they could leapfrog pretty easily.
Yeah, if they can get the right results in those games. Whereas when I was talking about North Carolina before, they don't really have a lot of own destiny control. It's relying a lot on how do these other teams perform. So Seattle might
they got a
chance, and they got Jess Fishlock back. Which, like, her veteran presence, her goal scoring ability, her goal creating ability is really unmatched. And she's also kind of on her little bit of her swan song, right? This is she's retiring at the end of the season. You got Laura Harvey, who is just like a legendary coach out there. I wouldn't put it past them.
They could do it. Moving on to Orlando, they have played 18 games. So
geez,
they're getting there. By the time you will have listened to this, they'll play another one. So they'll only have 11 games left by the day this comes out. 7 of those come against teams in the top 6. So like they're playing the top 6 every other week, basically. So it's going to be a hard one there. They are at 1.22 goals per game and 1.44 goals against. So a little bit underwater here.
We have talked about their defense a few times on this podcast.
And I put that their upside is Barbara Banda.
I mean, that's a great upside to have.
12 goals in 15 games.
That's crazy.
She's just absolutely phenomenal. Their downside is also Barbara Banda. Over-reliance on her. Yeah. She's gone at WAFCON. They lost to North Carolina 5-0.
Yes.
If you're over reliant on a single player to get you somewhere, it's not going to end up.
So agree. And we've talked about that before. One semi-silver lining for Orlando, not for Barbara Banda, is that Zambia was eliminated from group play or out of the group. So now she gets to come back. Whereas like Temwa Schwinga, the KC Current, Malawi, qualified to move on to the quarterfinals, which is amazing in their debutante run. And Nigeria like just snuck in there, excuse me, in that group. So they do get Banda back. So I think we said at the beginning we wanted to, did we think there were any outside of those four that we just discussed, right? That could potentially drop out, any that could rise. So right outside of the 7 through 10, you have the two expansion teams. You've got Denver and you've got Boston. But they're kind of
Denver. Yeah, I mean,
they're like, it's possible.
They're at 20 points, so I mean, they're only 3 points out of 8th place.
It's possible.
They just got
me again after we go to the game.
Yeah, they just got Heaps back, so.
Yes, but she didn't play in the midweek because of some kind of knock.
Oh, so okay.
I hope we get to see
we'll
her
what
play.
Happens
but there. I do think I've talked about their advantage in the back half of the season before, in that they have a significant number of more home games because their stadium situation to start the season. So, and they have the altitude, which can play a huge role, depending on travel schedules for their opponents. So it's possible. They'd have to be pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we've seen the consistency to win from either Denver or Boston. But you also could have an Orlando or an Angel City or whomever, like kind of
plummet out.
They could fall out too. So we've talked about this a lot. Like, it's going to be fun to watch. Again, like that parity just makes it like really interesting. And like, how fun would it be actually if like a team we're not talking about kind of just like, here we are, Houston. We have a problem.
I just realized something. It's really interesting since we started this podcast that we used to be like, we want our team to be the best. And now we're like, we're watching for the teams that are barely going to scoot their way into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because that's where the fun, that's the fun part right there.
We can be the disruptors. All right. Let's move on to the W. We are like live getting updates on our links right now, which is not going great.
Not going great for them.
But they are still at the top of the table. They can afford to lose a game or there. The sky will not be falling. They are on a 10-game winning streak. That probably will end tonight now. So you want to take us through kind of that top list again, and then we're gonna have the same structure. So take us through what we got.
All right.
Left. This
number 1, Minnesota. Number 2, Las Vegas. Number 3, Golden State. Number 4, Atlanta. Number 5, Indiana. Number 6, Dallas. Number 7, New York. And number 8, Washington. And then just let me give you 9, 10, 11, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Phoenix.
Here we kind of have to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So depending on which team you're talking about, you've got about 11 to 15 games left in the season. Schedules have been a little weird. And the last regular season game day is September 24th.
Yeah.
But that's a little misleading because we have a 17-day break from the end of August to September 17th when they resume play for the FIBA World Cup in Berlin, I think. In Germany somewhere. And so that roster was just announced today. I think mostly no surprises. But you have players who are going to be going and playing during that break. And then you come back and you have like 2 to 4 games, depending on your team. 2 to 3, I think, actually. And so that break actually could be really interesting too for how this finishes out.
I'm really liking the break actually because it gives some of the other like kind of support players some time to rest and like get ready for the playoffs if you're headed there. Yeah,
you do wonder though about like, does it again? We talked about this with the World Cup break on the NWSL side. Like, does it slow momentum down? Going into the playoffs, that could be detrimental. So, we are going to talk again last 2 in, quote unquote. And so our 7 through 10, as Alex just said, were the New York Liberty, the Washington Mystics, the Chicago Sky, and then we couldn't just pick one, but we had to talk about both the Los Angeles Sparks and the Phoenix Mercury. And the reason for that, I will explain when we get to that point. So you want to take us?
Yeah. Talking about the Liberty, looking at their schedule, it's not terrible, but it's not super great either. They've got the Aces, Fever twice, Dream twice, Valkyrie, and the Lynx. And then they also play the Sun, the Sky twice, the Tempo, and the Spark. So a few potential gimmies in there, but then you also got quite a tough schedule of the rest of the league there.
Yeah.
I think they stay in. I think they stay probably in 8th place. Or they're in 7th now. I think they could probably go down to 8th place with the Mystics surging.
Yeah.
I think the Mystics, we'll talk about it here in a minute, but I think they have been surging. I think they have a favorable schedule, and I think they're going to kind of bunny hop over the New York Liberty.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to hang on to playoffs by the skin of Brianna Stewart's teeth.
Yep.
Right? Like, she's the only consistent piece for them this year. I think they've seen glimmers from Maureen Johannes, Pauline Astier, Sab Ionescu as she's come back from injury. Satu Sabali basically like hasn't played since early June, maybe even before that, like because of the concussion. And it's just we talked about Chris DeMarco, I think, in our last week's episode. Like he just doesn't seem to like have figured out how to use his personnel as effectively as we've seen that personnel be used in the past, right? Because it's a lot. John Cole Jones, another name to mention there. So like they have these like fits and spurts, but they don't have this what feels like a really consistent like go-to game plan where they like know how to dominate teams. And it's either that or they're not very good at adjusting to teams when they throw at them. So I think they will hang. But I think it's going to be on the back of Brianna Stewart. So they better freaking hope she stays healthy. Because I think if she gets hurt or something happens to her, that might be game over for the Liberty.
Moving on to the Mystics. Like I said, schedule is pretty favorable. They only have to play the Aces twice, Dream once, Lynx once, Fever once.
Only have to play the Aces twice.
But then they have to play the Mercury 3 times.
Oh, wow.
The Sky twice. The Sun, the Sparks, the Tempo, and the Fire. So all kind of the lower side of the league.
But what's interesting about that though is like I go back to it's like you control your destiny. Like you're playing the teams that you need to beat. That you need to get ahead of or stay ahead of, right? Which for some teams that's like really helpful. Like I know I'm probably not going to go out and beat the Las Vegas Aces, right? I'll give it my all, but like that one we know could be a loss. We know we have to get up for Phoenix, right? Or Chicago. So
I basically what I said in the last one. I mean, they've been surging. I think they probably hop over the Liberty. They've been finding their groove lately, and I think they can stay in.
Yeah, I think the challenge that I see for the Mystics is, and we've talked about this all season long, is their youth.
They're young.
And so when you get to it's fun when like you're just kind of playing games and like, okay, like let's go out there and like give it our best shot and like we'll see if we win. When you get to where games are like, we have to win. That's a different kind of pressure. Right. And now, to be fair, they have a lot of youth on their team who have played at the highest level in college, right? Like we've got a couple of our, last year's or this year's national champion UCLA Bruins. You've got Sonia Citron and Kiki Ariafen, who, they're not rookies, they're younger players, but like almost play like vets for that team. So I'm not counting them out by any means, but I do think that pressure shift will kind of show like how do they hang and how does head coach Sydney Johnson guide them through that, knowing that that's going to be something that could affect them differently. But I like them. We've been talking about them all year. Like they're good, and
they're great on social media. They have so much fun in that locker room.
They do look like they're having a lot of fun. You kind of like want to root for them. All right. I am going to talk about the first team on the outside right now, which is Chicago Sky, who I'm pretty sure we're in 13th a couple weeks ago.
If they could win one out of every two very close games, they would be in like 6th place.
Yeah.
I feel like.
All right. Here's my take. They have a very difficult remaining schedule. They have to play the Fever twice. Now, both of those are at home in Chicago. And they have to play the Valkyries twice, but they split that.
Yeah,
but they have to go into Valhalla, which you don't usually come out of that with a win. They have what I call deciding games. They actually have 2 shots at the Liberty and 2 shots at the Mystics. So those are the 2 teams right ahead of them. And it's a home away split for both.
Yep.
So like they do have a little bit of like control your destiny, right? They don't have any players going on that FIBA break.
Okay.
So for them, it could be a good time, like you said, to like rest, really game plan. Like you kind of know at that point, like I know what needs to happen in these last 3 games. Hopefully they're still in the conversation at that point. But because of their lack of ability to actually win the close games, right?
Yeah.
I think they have the most losses of any team this year in 1-score games or in games where they're leading with some small amount of time left. I don't know if they can close it out. I just don't know if they have the killer instinct. I think Sydney Taylor has been playing out of her head. But she can even be a little bit streaky. I think Camila Cardoso could be one of the best bigs in the W, but she gets in foul trouble really easily. And like it has to come off the floor, right? And you can't impact that way. They have some interesting injury stuff going on. I think Skylar Diggins is still out. I think Azurá Stevens is out with injury. Obviously, Dejanay just came back, but she's like just coming back, right? Like kind of finding her footing. So they just feel like they're not in like a stable position with the team.
Not clicking. There.
And then like you got Tosh, but like there's just not enough. Right.
Yep.
I always wonder with this team, like how different would it look if Rakia hadn't torn her ACL?
For sure. Yep.
Not to put a ton on her, but like she was playing so well.
She could have been like that missing piece that actually makes everything kind of click together.
Exactly. So kind of her gravity helps other players and things like that. I think like we've talked about, Sydney Taylor's doing that, but she's not a Rakia Jackson. So I will be watching very closely their series left with the Liberty and Washington, because if they can sweep either one of those, then maybe it's a different conversation. All right. Sparks Mercury, couldn't pick one, had to pick both. The reason why, because we just traded Kelsey Plum from the Sparks to the Mercury. So like now everybody's like, maybe the Mercury will make a push.
Pop up.
Okay, let's level set though. The Sparks and the Mercury right now are sitting on 11 wins. Well, now 12 for the Sparks.
Yep.
12 for Phoenix. They are both 6 games behind, 6.5 games behind Washington in 8th place.
Yeah, that's
a tall order.
That's a tall order, especially with, like we said, with the Mystics schedules.
Correct. So in my view, now the Sparks just beat my Lynx, which is annoying to me, but
they also, sorry, go ahead.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a chance.
No.
They have to play Golden State twice. They have to play Atlanta twice. They have to play the Mystics twice. Again, I do like the control your own destiny line. They have to play the Aces and the Lynx once. That is
that's tough.
So you're talking about 2, 6, 8 games of your remaining 12. And you are 6 games behind.
Yeah. Not great.
Now, the Mercury also, I think, have a tough sled, but not as tough. What's interesting about the Mercury,
they play Washington 3 times.
They play Washington 3 times. Yeah. So if they could sweep Washington or even take the better 2-1.
2-1.
2-1. They have Vegas once and Dallas twice, and that's kind of it. Like they've played the Lynx, they've played like they're kind of past, they've played the Fever. So there's possibility there.
Yeah, they could pull it out.
And they do look different with KP. Yeah. And right now she's playing restricted minutes, and as she kind of gets back into form and is playing more. They have a lot of veteran leadership. Yeah. Now, they also have, I think, Copper and KP are both going to FIBA. So, like, they don't get that rest period. You know, what could happen, but I think
it could happen if they beat Washington 2 or 3 times. Yeah. It'll be interesting.
It could be. So, so that's kind of our 7 through 10 assessment there. When it comes to the question of like any potential plummeters from our top 6, I have one. In my opinion, I do think that Indiana Fever face quite a challenge going into the back end of the season here. So they have to play. They played the Aces tonight, so that was their last game against them. They lost that game. They have to play the Liberty twice, which the Liberty need to win, right? So that's the other thing is like now as these top teams are playing, the Lynx just lost to the Sparks. Like you have teams that need to win against teams that don't necessarily need to win, right? They have Dallas twice. Dallas beat them earlier this season. And they have to play Minnesota twice and Atlanta once. Atlanta has beaten them twice. Minnesota's beaten them. So between Dallas, Minnesota, and Atlanta, they haven't beaten those teams yet this year. They have a much better home record than away record. Their remaining game schedule is 6 home, 8 away.
Okay.
Right. So I'd called that out. I was like, why are they always playing at home?
Yeah.
Right.
You did.
And now it's going to come back as like, now you have to play a lot away. So they're at the Lynx, the Liberty, Dallas, and Dream. And then they have to go play 2 at the Sky who need to win. Right. So I just feel like there's potential there. And all of this comes together. Like the Fever have good pieces on their team. Don't get me wrong. Right. When they are on, they are very, very difficult to beat. However, we've talked all season long about their defensive struggles. They give up a lot of points. And I think that there is a lot of distraction around that team. So they get more media attention. They are the team who every game is nationally broadcast. I mean, just tonight, they had fans escorted out off
10-minute, 5-minute
out of their arena because they were saying something inappropriate to one of the Aces players. So there's always something coming up that they're having to navigate that is not just
the basketball.
How do we play good basketball? They also have Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston all going over for FIBA. So they have these kind of disruptions. Other teams have that too, right? But you kind of layer it all together. And to me, they're the one team, if I look at that top list of 6, that looks most tenuous in their position based on some of these factors. Now, they also have cheat code Kelsey Mitchell, who like knows how to go out and just take over games, right? They have, reasonably consistent scoring from Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark. And then their role players are still kind of, I think, figuring out like how to be consistently effective, but they can get good contribution from a Billings, from a Timpson, from a Cunningham or a Hull, right? But like, it's not consistent. So that's why I say that. Any thoughts?
I think my only thought I had on plummeters was I did not go stats. I went with feels.
Oh, I love feels.
And my feels were Atlanta. And I mean, they're in 4th place right now.
They're so
but they had that 5-game skid, I think, right before the break. And so I'm just worried that like if they get on a skid, they might not be able to get out of one, and that could. I don't think they'll maybe drop out, but they could plummet.
Yeah. what did I say about Atlanta early in the season was like they just needed to get out of their own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if they just kind of can play ball the way that they should be able to, they're fine.
Yeah.
Right. But the challenge is they seem to like get in their own way a little bit. So I appreciate that that feels analysis.
Yeah, I
think
didn't
that
do
makes
stats.
sense.
I just did feels.
Yeah. And then any potential sorors outside of who we talked about, I said absolutely not.
No.
I think I did the math and I was like Seattle, I'm pretty sure is mathematically eliminated. Yeah. I think Connecticut like would have to win out basically at this point. I don't think
they would even get there.
I don't know. It's so we're going to start to get to the point. We just learned tonight the Lynx broadcast. We didn't even know this.
If they would have won.
If they had won, they would have clinched a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get to that point too, where you're going to start to see elimination and clinching. And that also changes the game plan for some of these teams that start to clinch. Yeah. Like, do you start to rest people? Players?
Yeah.
And so are there some wins to pick up for a Chicago or a Phoenix, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So in some ways, maybe it's good if you're playing some of the top teams a lot at the end. We'll see. All right, let's wrap her up.
All right, we got what to watch. WAFCON semifinals. Is that this Wednesday?
No.
This is next. This is the Wednesday that you guys are listening to this. Yes. We're recording this very early. So
we don't know who's playing.
Yeah. When we got Wednesday, noon and 3 p.m. And then we will have a final Sunday at 2 p.m.
Yes.
You guys are on your own to figure out where you're going
to watch that. We don't know how to get you to watch it.
Look for a pirate stream somewhere or some, I don't know, like it might be the only thing you can do right now.
But I do want to call out the teams that make it to those semifinal games, important to note, will be the teams that have now qualified for the World Cup. So like huge accomplishment for all of those teams. And then the top two teams in not the third place game, but like out of the quarterfinals go on to that playoff. Okay. So like the quarterfinals that will happen before you listen to this episode are quite important for those nations.
All right. WNBA Friday, we have Dallas Wings at Indiana Fever, 6:30 p.m. on Ion. Saturday, it's like a repeat. Minnesota Lynx at Las Vegas Aces, 7 p.m. on CBS.
I didn't even have to like delete anything. It's just change the order of the teams.
Sunday, Phoenix Mercury at Portland Fire, 6 p.m. on ESPN.
Yeah, so you'll see, just even based on like our conversation just now, we're going to start spotlighting more games that are like critical to this playoff push in our What to Watch.
NWSL Friday, we have Gotham versus Kansas City Current, 7 p.m. on Prime. Saturday, Portland Thorns versus Orlando Pride, 7:45 p.m. on Ion. And then Sunday, Angel City versus Washington Spirit, 8 p.m. on ESPN. Mm-hmm. For the LPGA, we have the Portland Classic going on.
I think it's on Golf.
Usually those are like Golf Channel,
and
maybe
then it moves over to
CNBC or CBS, one of the two. Yeah. WTA Cincinnati Open, August 12th through 23rd.
And this is Venus and Serena are a doubles wild card draw. Right. So you can kind of try to track where and when they're playing. We don't know that draw, the timing of when they'll play quite yet.
And then WPBL Friday, San Francisco versus Los Angeles at 6:30 p.m. On Saturday, we have San Francisco versus Boston at 1 p.m. Los Angeles versus New York at 6:30 p.m. And then on Sunday, Boston versus New York at 6:30 p.m. All right.
Close it out.
Yeah. Is that it?
You do momentum and setbacks? Or are we too...
We are too close to when we recorded last that I have not had time to think about those this week.
My momentum and setback are one and the same in that this is a crazy week event-wise for me, and I am so tired. But they're so worth it. So I'm looking forward to our travels. Yeah. And we will be back by the time you hear this episode. So but we'll have this out. We'll have a little bit of an update in our next episode on how the game went and all the things back with our regularly scheduled programming. So
Follow us on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube, RTG_pod, RTGpod.com, Substack, Raising the Game Podcast, and raisingthegamepod@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you all for being here.
Bye.
Bye.